You get the idea in terms of product creation, folks, yeah? It's actually a really straightforward process. Yes, there's a learning curve, right? I'll warn you, you may get into what's called writer's block, where you'll sit there and you'll stare at a piece of paper and go, oh, what do I do it now? The only reason you can get writer's block, would you like to know what that is? Yes. You lost contact with your client. That's why your empathy map is so important. That's why your market research is so important. Let me put it this way. Right now, if you think about recording a product, what are you going to say in it? Chances are most of you think like, I don't actually know what I want to say. Maybe you just know the topic. Would that be fair to say? Yeah. Now, think about someone who's got a problem for whom that CD would be a solution. Can you actually think of a specific person? Yes? What would you say to them? How much easier is it? Right? The only way you can get writer's block in terms of creating products is if you lose contact with your audience, with your client base. Hence, you go right back to your empathy map, which is right back to the beginning of day one. Now, you're beginning to appreciate now why we spend so long with the marshes. Yeah? You see how important that is? What I'd like to do now is very quickly run you through a simple audio editing software. It's called Audacity. It's free to download, free to use. In your resource guide, I've included a whole section on how to download and install it for free. It's a wonderful editor. Actually, I do all my audio on that now, except for the ones we export and ask an editor to do for us because I haven't got the time for it. Other than that, I do them all on Audacity now. Even though I have better software like GarageBand, I actually prefer this one, right? It's simple, it's easy, and it does really what it's supposed to do. Okay, are we running here? Yep. So this is what Audacity looks like. If you look on the top left-hand screen over there, you see all those little buttons. The red one does what? Record. That's right. The yellow one stops it. If you stop a recording in the middle of it, it'll cut the track, and it'll have, actually let's show it, start a recording. So I'm recording my voice right now. I would normally, of course, plug my headset into there so the quality is much better. Now, if you hit stop, it stops that, and if it starts recording again, it starts on another track, right? Which is not very useful, because you then have to start cutting and pasting them together. So if you delete those two tracks, you just get rid of, you just go delete. Actually, you'll just hit the X, that's it, hit the X again. See how quickly it is to delete the tracks? Now, if it starts recording, again, he's recording my voice. Let's say I make a mistake. Typically, I'll put an audio sound. With a microphone on, you can do something as simple as just a lip smacking sound, like that usually has an audio spike. It's what I've noticed happens, right? Like you can just clap if you want, and the clap will put an audio spike in. It's easy for you to see. Then if you just press pause rather than stop, it pauses the recording. I can collect my thoughts. I can think about my mistake, and then I can reorganize my thoughts, and then press pause again. And it carries on from there, so that now I can actually re-record what I just made a mistake on, and then later on when it comes to editing, all I do is I cut out the piece I didn't like. And then we stop that. You just push the stop button. There we go. It's real simple, right? Now, if you just press, if you just do Control A so you get all highlighted, right? So now it's highlighting the whole thing. If he presses play, he'll start actually playing the audio track back. So I can hear what I'm talking about. You see the two green... So the green bars show you how loud it is and so on, right? So you can stop that for a moment, right? And then I can just go through it. And if I don't like the way something sounds, I can just edit it out. How do I take something out of that? The first thing I want you to do is go to the left side of the screen. You'll see those little microscopes, sorry, the right side of the screen, sorry. Over here, further on, there. We see the magnifying glasses. What they do is they let you zoom in and zoom out. If you get the little plus sign magnifying glass, just click on plus. See how you now get into closer and closer. This lets me take care of very fine details like a swallowing sound or a little clicking sound. I can just highlight that little piece. Just take a little piece on the end there for me. Actually, go into plus, add plus. There. Just take one of those spikes and highlight it for me. Actually, smaller one. Just get literally that little tiny little thing. That's it. That might be a clicking sound you don't like, right? All you do is highlight it, and you have two choices. Either my preference is you press delete. Or was it Control Delete maybe? Was it just delete on its own? Oh, it doesn't do it on your one for some reason. Alternatively, you can just do Command X or Control X. Oh, you know what? Let me just try this a second. Let's have a look here. And now they stopped the air conditioning, which is kind of weird. Oh, you've paused it. That's why. There we go. That'll be why. So you just highlight this little section here, press delete, and just goes. It's very simple, right? So the reason that didn't work earlier on is because we didn't stop the track, we paused the track, right? So let's try another section. Let's say this is whole, it's a mistake I made. I misspoke myself, right? So I'll highlight it, I press delete, and there it goes. Now, if I just want to move a little bit of track, I'll highlight it. The manual way to do it is if you go to the, up there, that's it there. It's just like on a Word file. You can cut and paste and so on. Go to the scissors sign, it cuts it. The same quick keys do the same thing, like Control X will cut it, like in a Word document. Or I think in Word it's Control C and Control V and so on, right? So Control X will cut it. Then you move your cursor to where you want it. That's where I want it now. And I go Control V, or I can go onto the pasting symbol, and it puts it right in there. Do you see how easy it is to move stuff around, right? Very quick question here. Can we have a mic over here, please? So far, this easy, right? You have a lot of control in what you're doing here. Again, your notes give you the basic editing stuff again, and we'll include this video in the DVD so you can actually see it going as it's being done. So the controls are real simple, right? Quick question?
You may be just about to get into this, but it looks like when you delete the actual audio itself, you're also removing the space in time.
Yes, you are. We'll come on to what we do in between that as well, right?
Okay.
So right now we just got the basic editing functions, guys. You can delete stuff, you can move stuff, and you can zoom in and zoom out according to those things, right? You can play with the other buttons as well. I recommend you just do a random track and play with all the buttons so you really mess it up, just to see what stuff does, right? Now, what if we want to just blank out something for silence, or because we want to remove something, but we don't actually necessarily want to collapse the space in between it. We just want to have silence in between that, right? You have two choices. The first one is, which is the symbol here? This symbol right, yeah, this symbol right.
That's the silence, yeah.
That's the silence one there here. There's a symbol here, which has little wavy signs on the outside and a blank space in the middle. What that'll do is, it'll silence everything you've got highlighted, right? Be careful, however, because do that again, just undo that. Control, just highlight another portion, there we go. If you use a symbol next to it, which has little jagged lines inside the lines and blank on the outside, you will blank out the entire recording. That's not this. If you go ahead and do that in a moment, that causes panic. Especially if you spend 2 hours recording this thing, right? Luckily, you can undo it quickly with a simple Control Z, you know, the classic undo thing, right? So if you made a mistake, it's not deadly. However, be aware that one does one and the other. Hence, play with the buttons so you can have that sort of stuff. Now, if you want to have more silence, the simple way to do it is to just take a section like that, put the silence thing on it, so just click on the silence bar there, then just copy it, so Control-C, copies it, and then just, if you get the regular bar up, so notice I've got a line, I put the line where I need it, and I put Control-V, and it just keeps adding more and more silence spaces like that for whatever length I need it to be, right? There is also a function up here. If you go to Generate, if you go up here on the Generate tab up here, see the Generate tab? There's the Silence tab there. You can put longer silence in like that as well. I rarely use it, but it's an option if you need to extend space in some way or other. So that's something you can do too. The next thing you need to know about, is this simple so far, guys? Right? And again, this tutorial, you'll have a physical version in your resources you can go through, and we'll have the video as well you can watch and review and follow step by step. So I'm going to give you a little whirlwind tour for that. There's a question over here. Can we have a mic over here, please? Can you just carry it across?
Just a comment.
There's a comment.
To save your changes frequently.
Oh, yes. Like with any document, folks, constantly, every time I do a little edit, I will put Control-Save to save it, because I have lost an hour of editing in the past, and it's quite frustrating, right? Is there some quick things?
The first was save original, then save as, edit.
Yeah, actually, I don't bother saving the original just because I have the original MP3 or audio file outside of the system, and I just edit, I save this thing, and then you can get more complex with stuff, so let's not get too tied up with this, guys. I just want you to understand the basic editing functions, and then you can get as elaborate or as simple as you want, but do keep saving stuff because it's important, right? Saving is as simple as Control-Save. Actually, just do Control-Save a second. Command-Save, rather. Sorry, just get rid of that. There. So really, all it does is it says, where do you want to have it? You just give it a title, and it'll save the file. Don't worry about saving it. Just click on Save, and it'll be, right now it's on your desktop, and it's there, right? And that's the audio file. You can always come back into it and re-edit it if you want to change things afterwards. Okay? So far, so simple. If you go to the Effects tab right up here, you have a whole list. Actually, just highlight a bit of thing. Now go to the Effects tab. You see how all those things light up? You will not need most of these things. You can have some simple stuff like fading in and out so that the volume suddenly gets louder or suddenly gets quieter. Very useful if you want to add music tracks to it. You'll slowly start the music in. You'll slowly exit the music out at the end. It saves you having a sharp cut, right? The other one, which is very simple, go to the Effects again. If you go to Amplify, that lets you make it louder or quieter. Now, if you make it louder, of course, now it's going to get distorted. If it's too loud, you just use a section that's too loud, and you go to minus numbers. As soon as it's minus numbers like that, right, you'll have to experiment with how much you do it, and you press on OK. It just minimizes the volume so that you can help balance it out. If one thing's a bit too loud, you can just shorten it down a bit. It becomes a bit quieter. It fits the rest. If you want to make the whole recording louder in general, I recommend you don't use that function. All you do is, if you go over here to the plus minus, there you go. You see this thing here? That increases or decreases the general volume for the entire track, right? It's a much more eloquent way of doing it. It goes up by increments of 3 decibels, so it's a reasonable amount. So if you want to have a fine tune of increasing audio, you'll have to use the amplify function. It allows you to do it very fine-tuned. This will give you big blocks of increasing or decreasing for the entire track. So far, so easy? Yeah? Really, that's most of the stuff that you'll need here. Then there's some more complex stuff that you can play around with. I don't play around with graphic equalizers or anything like that. I literally just do this. I'll silence out the spaces when I'm not talking. And that's pretty much all I do. Then the final thing you need to know about is how do you, when you press Control Save again, so you've saved the file, right? So now this file has been updated. Now it has this version of the file. If you now go to the file point here, do you see how it has the export as WAV, export as MP3, right? Typically, I'll export these as high-level MP3s because audio is, for voice, is very forgiving. Otherwise, you may want to have a WAV file. A WAV file is a higher quality, but it's a much bigger file. Audio CDs typically just have WAV files on them, and you can use iTunes or something like that to burn it. You just put the audio file on iTunes, click on Burn CD, and it pretty much does it for you. It's a really simple process, right? It just exports it for you. You'll have right next to wherever this recording is will be your WAV file or your MP3 file, and that's it. You have yourself an audio product. Simple, right? So can we have the microphone over here, please?
He's got a microphone.
Okay.
Is there something you use to duplicate CDs once you've made your original,
Okay,
or
so
someplace you can email the file?
CD duplications, a couple of options you have. Number one, you can just make them one by one on your laptop or PC. It's a lot of work. I have done this, right? When I first did the Power of Conversation Hypnosis course, it was 12 CDs only at the original version, not the one that's currently out there. It was much poorer quality. I didn't know any of this sort of stuff, right? And I remember I had a rush order. I think I had 30 sets, which is great, right? So I got 30 sets ordered, but then suddenly I realized that's 30 times 12, right? That's a lot of CDs, and I was burning them one by one. It took me a long, long, long time, right? So you can do it, and it's kind of fun doing it for a while. You get used to it. The next options you have from there is you can get what's called a CD replicating tower, which is basically you stack about 50 CDs on the top, and it has like a little mini computer in there. It drops one CD in, your master's on the top, your blank is on the bottom, or the other way around. It drops it in, zips it in, copies it, tests it, and a little arm picks it up and puts the good version here or the bad version there, right? If it's a bad replication, it'll automatically dump it for you. If you're going to do that yourself, shop around for decent quality CDs. You don't have to go for the highest end, but do not go for the lowest end. It's another mistake I made, right? When the ink inside the CDs is so low you can barely see it yourself, the audio is all going to be trashed. So you can waste your time on all kinds of stuff. Is that a quick comment?
Yeah.
Say? Kunagi and Lulu.com are the other options I'm going to come on to. So Kunagi.com and Lulu.com, these are places that will print the CDs for you one by one. Lulu.com, in fact, will even list them on Amazon for you, I think, nowadays. And, but basically what they do is, it's someone orders it, and you can actually use their shopping cart as well. Someone orders it, they print one CD, they'll ship it, and they'll keep a percentage and they'll send you the rest, right? So you set the price, they will have a percentage which will be for production and shipping costs, and you get whatever is left over, right? It's a very simple system, and when you're starting off, Lulu is actually pretty great. I've never used Kunagi, so I can't comment on it, but it seems to be a pretty decent one. So experiment with these things, folks, right? If you do that, then make sure you have a copy sent to you. I think they automatically send you one copy to check anyway. Check the quality first, and it's a very simple system. I believe, well, at least when I was looking at them, this is years ago now, they would only do one CD at a time. So if you had a CD package of like I did, like 12, it was no good because I couldn't do all 12 CDs in one pack. That may have changed now. Please inform yourselves, because I haven't really looked it up as much. Make sense? Can you pass the microphone backwards, please? And we'll come over to you in a second. Right there, in the shirt. Is this easy stuff? Yes. Yeah? Very quickly.
Just a word of warning about audio CD.
Audio CDs, yeah?
Yeah. Not audio CDs, the program.
Oh, Audacity.
Audacity.
Yeah.
To export as MP3, you have to download another.
Yeah, that's fine. That's actually all in the notes already, so I'd rather skip that because otherwise we'll get into all kinds of technical details that we don't need to. Then right over here, please, with Mercy.
How do you get the music on the CD?
Oh, very simple. Can we go back to Audacity a second? Thank you. That's a good question, right?
I'm gonna record that too.
Yeah. So here's our recording, right? Now, what we can do is if we, is it recording yet?
Nope.
The video? Okay, we'll just give it a second.
I don't know why. There we go.
Okay.
Okay.
So we're just recording this so you guys have a screen capture. So here is our audio, our voice track, right? Let's say you have an audio track you want to put underneath it. You want to buy what's called royalty-free music. You cannot just put your favorite music tracks in the background because especially with things looking nowadays and Hollywood getting a little bit desperate, they've pushed in a lot of legislation that will send little old ladies to prison. That's the way it is, I guess. So you make sure that you buy royalty-free music so you'll have the license to use it. And when you buy that music, different licenses will apply for what kind of things you use it. Some you can use on their own, some can only be in backing tracks, some can only be used 100 times and you have to buy another license. So you have to read up the license a little bit to make sure you can do what you want to do with it, right? Most places, you'd be okay, you just get the music you want. And once you have the music, you've got to put in a folder, you know where to find it. And then you click on project there, and it says there import audio. When it says import audio, all you do is you go to the folder where your music file is in. It'll take MP3s, it'll take WAV files, it'll take similar things like that. You just take the music that you want to have, and there you go. It's right now importing the audio track. It'll be a second track, and then you need to balance the sound so the audio is not overpowering, but you balance the sound just as we talked about a moment ago. You'll probably zip down on the minus side for the music, and zip up on the voice, and then they balance out properly. We'll wait for this to its thing. And then you pretty much have music in there as well. And you can fade the music in, then you cut the music. The music may be longer or shorter than your induction. If it's longer...
This one's much longer.
Yeah, I can tell. If it's longer, you just cut it off. We'll show you how to cut in a second, and then you'll fade it out nicely, right? There it is, right? Now he's going to have to select all that extra blank stuff. You have to select it all, right? Because that's wasted audio time, and just delete. Just click on delete. And now, if we go into the, if you just go onto the plus thing here to magnify in, it just gets the audio quicker, bigger. There you go. You can delete the excess again. You may actually want to have a little bit of trailing time afterwards, right? And then just fade it out, easy, right? Now over here, go to the minus sign here. You may want to turn the volume of the audio down so the voice has more and the audio has less. The only thing you want to also check is turn the audio right up again. Good. Now press play. Okay, actually go Control S so we got the whole thing, and press play. Now you see the green bars up there. Do you see how it hits the red bar at the top? Do you see on the over there there's a little red bar? What that tells you is the volume is too loud. You are distorting the sound because now you have your own voice plus the music. That means 2 bits of volume of sound coming in, and speakers can't handle that, right? So what you have to do is to make sure when you play with the audio levels of the voice and the music, that when you play it through, the entire track plays through without hitting that red little thing coming up. Typically, in that left and right thing, can you circle that left and right thing again up there? No, up this one here. Typically, no, this right here, this there. This area here, I normally look for that level to be something like 3/4 of the way full, maybe just over, it will be okay, but never hitting the red. Make sense? Then you export it in whatever format you want, and you're good to go. Easy? So this is the crash course on how to create an audio. For video editing, really, iPhone Video Hero will show you some of the video editing stuff, or you have to educate yourself a little bit more, or hire a video editor. Warning, expensive, right? To do that, but it's very doable, and you can do it in-house as well. iMovies is a pretty good program, and if you want to go to like really pro stuff like Final Cut Pro and so on, that's just another thing entirely, but you'll find lots of tutorials on that. Can you pass the microphone back?
All I was going to say is if anybody were to ever get stuck, you can always YouTube a tutorial that'll walk you through.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. YouTube is a phenomenal learning tool. You have tutorials on virtually anything on there, right? Some things that really shouldn't be on there are still on there anyway, so. So, are we good with the audio stuff? Let's not get carried away because there's a lot of other stuff we need to cover here. Very quickly.
Are you going to do labels as a separate thing?
Labeling is very simple. You can actually print a paper label and have it glued on.
But
There's a version of that comes
Will
on.
people like Lulu do the label at the same time? For
Lulu
you?
will do the labeling for you.
Okay.
Right? That's a much easier way. And then once you get a little wealthier, you can go to a fulfillment center. They will print 100 batches for you, and they will just store them. There's a fee involved. But if you're regularly selling stuff, it's worthwhile doing that. That's how all our products are doing.
So I meant the dual case.
They will do
labels.
everything.
They do all of that. Thank you.
They do everything.
Thank you.
Yeah?
Yep.
Just look up the tool and go through their tutorials, and they'll
I
find
don't know
out.
if you know, but this is what you guys use.
I know that, yeah. Yeah, that's one of them. Disc.com.
Disc,
Don't start here, guys. This is
Yeah.
way beyond your level at this point. You want to be selling much higher volumes because you will be paying a monthly fee for this sort of thing. So don't worry about that right now. So we good with this? So let's move on to the next segment, which is how to get more out of your hypnotherapy one-to-one sessions. You want to take them through that? Do you guys want to learn how to get more out of the hypnotherapy sessions? Let me put it this way to you. You can get a client in for one session, and let's say the average is $100, or you can get a client in for 5 sessions and get $500. Now, this is not necessarily like, oh, let's just extend the one session over 5. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about how to add value each stage of the way so they get 5 times more than they bargained for, and of course, you have a healthier business. Will that be of interest to you guys, yes? Yes.
Well, I came across this idea a few years ago, and when I learned about it, it was something that was always right in front of my face, but is something that can really multiply your business. And it's the idea that's sort of a weird M. It's the idea of a curriculum, or if you want to make it a little simpler for yourself, a ladder. And if you give human beings a curriculum or a ladder to climb, they will climb it. It's just human nature. And the traditional model of hypnotherapy is see a client, fix their problem, and then you'll probably never see them again. And there are successful hypnotherapists that will work within that model and they'll do fine. But I prefer the model of seeing a client, fixing a problem, and then having a whole curriculum or ladder level of services that they can follow that will give them more and more and more value. Now, this doesn't mean just extending, like, let's say, I made the example of I can do a stop smoking session in an hour. This does not mean expand this into, 5 different sessions for the same problem. What I'm talking about is maybe at the bottom of this ladder, we've got, that first session. And that's, again, where that traditional model ends. But if you've got a whole other level of services and a range of products and programs that people can follow, you'll get a lot more value for your business and give a lot more value to your potential clients. So, you know, in a particular model that I use as a program, after a first session, the first session might actually not be the first step, but we'll talk about that in a moment. But after a first session, let's say they're really happy with the result, they've stopped smoking. And remember we talked a little bit about how you can take a smoker and they've got a lot of other issues that they're probably going to want to take care of in their lives. So maybe it's anxiety, or maybe it's stress in a potential, you know, like a party situation, or maybe they just want to, you know, improve something about themselves. Maybe they want to sleep better. Those top 10 types of products that we have, that we generated with you guys, all those are valid things. You can give them a ladder to follow. And in particular, I like to make a curriculum follow a particular subject. This is like having a major in a university or college, right? You go through the lower level classes first. These are the things you have to take. And then you can start to get more and more advanced. And just like any college, you can take whatever subject you want, but they can all start to lead to very, very specialized things for that particular type of person. So after like a first session, for instance, maybe a person will decide to buy a product. And that's really great. They've now gotten some value out of the first session, and they've started with a product. But unless you outline the pathway between how do I get to the first session versus what's the product going to get me, versus what maybe like, say, a night class will get for me, people aren't going to connect the dots. Remember how we said that, you know, you can advertise, you know, I'm a hypnotist. You need to stop smoking. People aren't going to connect the dots with, I can do a stop smoking session for you. You'll feel great. Come and see me right now. They're not going to connect the dots between the services and products that you're going to offer unless you spell it out for them explicitly. So what I'll say often to, let's say they come in for a first session, I'll say, you know, congratulations on, let's say, quitting smoking. You know, you mentioned in, you know, while we were talking here, that you have some issues with, I don't know, you know, pain in your back. And, you know, I happen to have a product that deals with pain. Would you be interested? It's giving them another step to follow, another pathway that they can start to move down, that you can say, you know, this is just sort of the basic level of where I can help you. But maybe advanced here, we can start with seminars, and even stuff like personal coaching. You can give them a ladder to climb. And I like the idea of a ladder because it gives you an idea of the prices that you can actually offer it at some of these levels as well. Where a first session might actually be somewhere a little bit higher on the list. Some people might be introduced to you in the ladder or the curriculum of services you can provide as a product at first. Or if they start with the first session, really what people can do in these curriculums or ladders is jump all around if they so desire. And what I do often for my clients is I'll say, you know, you've gotten one of these sort of lower value, lower cost items, but if you really want to get really some advanced stuff and you really want to improve your performance in some area, you might want to come to a night class. And we'll give you some weekly coaching, let's say, to give you a boost or to give you insights into maybe how you can help your business or how you can, you know, live a better life at home. And then, you know, I also, those are pretty good, but I have a really advanced seminar that you could come to as well. Maybe it'll be in the Bahamas. And, you know, you can relax on the beach and then come to a seminar, or mostly just come to a seminar. Right? And, you know, I'll teach you some really advanced concepts there. I'll get you even further along the path of where you want to go. Or, you know what? I like you. And I don't tell this to many of my clients. But I've got some personal coaching. And this is High cost, yes, but you're going to get high value coaching. Personally, from me, let's say I'll take a whole day. Remember back there when I took you for an hour and I helped you stop smoking? That was pretty incredible, right? What if you had a whole day's worth of my undivided attention? Wow. That really sells people on the value, right? And it's not like I'm scamming them here, right? I'm not taking a smoker through, you have to go all the way to my personal coaching to quit smoking. I've taken care of, that would be, in my mind, that'd be highly unethical, right? You might make a little bit more in the short term, but you will lose out completely in the long term. So what I like to do is give them an option to take these higher value and sometimes even lower value, right? So the technical term for stuff like this is upselling and downselling, right? And the upselling and downselling is the right between the one rung of each of the ladders, but the concept that surrounds upselling and downselling is this whole concept of a curriculum, a pathway that you've laid out for them that they can follow in their lives to improve, to get more and more value out of you. And you guys have seen that with Igor's seminars and products and services as well, right? A couple years ago, I actually went this route. I paid a few $1,000s, and there was a small group of about like 12 of us, and we sat in a hotel room, and Igor gave us personalized, almost personalized one-on-one coaching at times, and then we talked to them in the group, and then more one-on-one coaching. And for me, anyway, we did it for hypnosis, and it took my hypnosis skills from pretty good, better than most of the hypnotists in my area, to astronomically better. And that was massive value. I had to pay a lot for it, but it was massive value. I repaid myself
After I come in
1,000 times
yes,
over.
He did pay a lot,
Yeah.
but it was a fun week, right?
It was a fantastic week, and I went from, like I said, pretty good hypnotist to really great hypnotist, and thank you for that service. And that's another point that I have is that not everyone will do this, but there are people that will thank you for giving them a pathway to higher learning, to more advanced stuff. In my experience, let's say you have a list of 100 people. About 20% of those people will want to know right away what the next step is. Let's say we had this seminar, and you leave them and you say, or even better still, you do a lecture demo, and you've given them some really amazing things that they have experienced, and they're like, wow, this guy's really great. And then you just go, okay, guys, bye. People are going to be left hanging. They'll be like, what else have you got? I really like this. I want to experience more of you. And, with regard to the session, moving it a little bit up, the more contact that you can give with people, the more they're going to crave that. And it will cost more because it's going to cost you more to provide some of these types of services. But if you leave your customers hanging, if you don't give them a pathway to follow, I can guarantee you, number one, that they will beg you for something, and you'll be like, I'm sorry, I have nothing to offer. And then number two, that if you do have those things, a certain percentage will follow. And in my experience, it's at least about 20% sort of want to be VIPs. They want to be moving on to the next level. They might not actually do it yet, but they'll be very, very interested. And then let's say, after a product, that 20% wants to kind of come to a night class, 20% of those people, so 20% of the 20, so you got 5 now, will probably want to move to a seminar. And then 20% of those, I did the math really well, one person will want to come and do that personal coaching with you. And again, you're giving them a curriculum. This is, if you translated this to American college, right? You get, PhDs up here, and you start with, kindergarten down here, right? Or, or even high school, right? So, one of my favorite organizations actually lists out, and they have this in front of the room, which I think is both hilarious and genius, and they say, you're in this class, and this is the advanced class, and this is the, everything you ever wanted class.
Just to add something to this, I recently saw an ingenious version of exactly this in Amsterdam, in Holland. It was a martial arts class, and the business system was set up beautifully for them. You come in for like a free, you can't actually sign up. You have to wait until an instructor takes you through a free intro talk and a free lesson. It's the only way you can sign up. They won't even give you the price or anything up front. So you turn up this free thing. They give this really exciting talk about, you know, the philosophy and how you grow as a person and how you're using the physical for the spiritual and all that sort of stuff. You get a little lesson, which is kind of fun. And at the end of it, they have this big wall chart, which is saying, and everywhere they've got the school plastered, which is genius, saying something on the lines of, a black belt is a white belt that never quits. Now just think about what that means. Your standard is now not just, well, I'll train for a little bit. Your standard is to reach a black belt. And that takes years, folks. Years. So they've already, from the very beginning, set the frame. You'll reach black belt. And in fact, all their classes are called instructor level 1, instructor level 2, and so on. So you're learning to become an instructor, so you can co-teach for them afterwards as well.
Yeah.
It's genius.
Well, because they probably had a bunch of people stop at black belt, and they go, and the black belt people are going, what
What do I
else?
do now?
What do I do now?
Plus,
Right?
they can grow as an organization.
Yeah.
And so what ended up happening is these lines out. You committed you got your free lesson, and then you would commit to the basic level, foundation level, which takes a year. There's 3 different levels, so there are different curricula in each of those 3 levels. But you commit up front for the entire year, right? Then after that, that's the kind of the foundational level. Then to get from that to just pre-black belt level, that's another, I think it's 2 or 3 year commitment. So once you've committed to a year, they ask for a 3-year commitment for the other levels to black belt. And once you're to black belt, they had, I think, 4 levels of black belt, which you again commit to all the way up front. Now, you don't pay for it up front. You pay in monthly installments. But rather than going to a gym where you pay by the month, I'll cancel this, your contract with them is for the entire period, for the first year, then for the next 3 years, and so on. They say, look, you can come to as many classes as you want. So it's not you to pay extra. We want you to come to more. That's why we're committing you to the monthly thing rather than to a fee thing. And we expect you to be black belts. We want you to keep going to make this because of it's good for you and all the rest of it. So the ladder was laid out right on the first day, and it's totally reinforced with all these little sayings on the wall and so on. It's ingenious. It's a great system. And of course, the students there are excited. They're loving what they're learning. And it's motivating for them because they have somewhere to go. They have a small goal. What's my next step? Turn up for the class, learn this little technique, right? They have your intermediate goal, which is turn up for the next 3 months, and I'll finish level 1, I get to level 2, right? They have their larger goal, which is for the next year on the basic training, which is these 3 levels they've got to get through. And they've got their big dream, which is to reach, crazy Kung Fu black belt level. But that'll take years, and they know it'll take years, but they're okay with it because they're not focused on that big portion that's scary. They're just focused on turn up for the next class, learn the next trick, learn the next technique, and that's how it goes. It's a beautiful system and exactly the same sort of ladder. You get the idea what this, how this works, how to put this into kind of practice?
Yeah. And remember again that people will not, and that's a really great example, people will not just connect the dots for you. You have to remind them. Give them that big goal, and then also give them little steps so you don't overwhelm them. But if you're not explicit in your marketing, in how you're speaking with people about this, if Igor didn't sit up here and talk to you about the products and services that he offers, many of you either would not know or would not be bothered to take advantage and go and look at the products and services he has to offer beyond where you are in here. So if you're not connecting the dots for your clients, you're not making it explicit, I can guarantee you that you will lose money. You will lose clients, and you will not be able to provide them the value that they actually are desperately seeking from you because they just won't know. They won't know how to connect the dots for you.
I can add something here. This is something that I learned very early on as a lawyer. Very often the client comes to you as a lawyer and says, I need you to do this for me, like draft this kind of contract or set up this kind of, in my business more, set up this kind of special purpose vehicle, this business structure. And the first thing we have to do is push back and say, well, what are you trying to achieve with this? Because 9 times out of 10, what they've asked for will not do what they want. What they need and what they're asking for is something totally different. And the same is true of these clients. They think they want this. Can you help me with this? Because that's their current experience. What they actually need is to fix their lifestyle that's that's exploding into that particular problem. And so you're giving them much more value, but they have no idea they need it because all they're focused on is what they think they want. Does that kind of make sense to you guys?
Yeah. So do you want to help me with a nice example that we can show them about
Sure.
like a weight loss program that might be
Sure.
a little bit more instructive for you guys? Would that make a little bit
Right.
better sense?
Oh, a quick question over here.
Yeah.
So the three boxes.
Sorry, it was a quick example. Just like 3 boxes, like basic, advanced,
Master.
Master, right?
Right?
And it doesn't have to be 3 steps. It could be 10 steps.
Could be any amount of steps.
Any number of steps. But I can guarantee you, when you get to the end, there will still be people, about
Want
20% or so, that will want more.
Yep.
So you're going to have to think about,
And if you're lucky to have Arthur in your life, he's one of them.
he is, yes. So you'll have to constantly create products newer and better and more massive value.
And it keeps you on your toes, which is great, right?
As some of you have experienced in here, I'll sit up here at breaks, and a lot of you will come up and start asking questions. And until you do this for yourselves, you won't get a super great feel for it. But
The day you run a lecture demo, the action happens when you stop talking.
yeah, people, especially like a live event, will come and they will suck as much knowledge out of you as you're willing to give. And that is where this model comes in, where you say, you know what, that's a fantastic question. And I'm going to create a seminar just for you, just on that one question. Because at an advanced level, the questions start to become really advanced. And the answers become really advanced as well, right? I could spend a whole seminar just on that curriculum model and plugging different systems in and everything else. And if you want, maybe I'll create that for you. So, it's important to know that your clients are always going to want more and better and more refined and more advanced information from you. Yeah, there will be people in the beginning that want the basic versions. And so I actually go both ways on that sort of spectrum. I look at it as kind of a spectrum of stuff where you've got basic clients and then you on over to the advanced clients that are always going to want more and always going to want, easier and stuff on the other
One
end.
way to visualize this, actually we'll do it over here. Think of it like a pyramid, right? This are the people who are only interested in lots of little simple things that they can do, and they'll buy lots of little simple things that will improve their life in a lightweight, in a small sort of way, right? Then there are people who want to have, there's fewer people who want to have something more sophisticated, and up here, you have a very small amount of people who want really complex, sophisticated things, or personal attention and so on, and they're willing to pay for it. So this is not just a ladder which goes up and down. This ladder is actually built more like a pyramid, because that's kind of what people are looking for. Now, that way you're serving your clients wide as well as deep. Make sense? Quick question?
Yep.
No, just a quick comment. I did a lot of work in the luxury goods industry, and that's literally how it's built out.
Yep.
Whether it's cars or jewelry, bags, etc., is
Yep.
you go from series to series to series.
Yep.
And psychologically, why people buy is they want their friends to recognize the level they're hitting.
Yes.
Right.
So you want your ladder to be explicit.
Right.
Yes.
And that's sort of an advanced psychological principle there, right?
Yeah.
Of that.
Absolutely right.
We
Thank you
want
for that.
we want our status to be raised over the individual group around us. And they've done studies where it's like, let's do I'll do an exercise. Would you rather work in a company where you're making $90,000 and everyone else is making $100,000, or would you rather work in a company where you're making $70,000 and everyone else is making $60,000?
Bit of a dilemma, right?
Right. You guys can already feel the answer, and the answer that most people pick is they'd rather make $70,000. When everyone else is making 60, even though I gave them the option to have $20,000 more in their life, they're comparing
To
each
the
other,
others.
to the others, right? And that's
The rational argument is get the money,
yeah,
but most people have the social argument, which is where am I in the social pecking order, so to speak? And that's more important to them. Was there a question there? Sorry? Okay. Make sense? So let's take this idea and turn this into actually a hypnotherapy program. So rather than coming in for a one-stop weight loss session, you can fix things that are happening all around that, right? So Has anyone here ever talked to someone who would like to lose weight? Yes? Yeah? So, if you could click your fingers and they were instantly slim, would that really fix everything in their life? So would it be fair to say that weight, pulling on weight for the most part, is a symptom of other things happening, correct? Right? So what kind of things? You just throw me some ideas out here. What kind of things are happening in their lives that are being expressed in the gaining weight sort of thing? So we have some relationship issues maybe, right? What else?
Lack of confidence.
Confidence is an issue. Okay, what else?
Yeah.
So decisions. So for example, they may not know about nutrition, right? So they're making poor food choices thinking they're great ones. An example of this is when I was at university in England, they have no clue about nutrition. So all the girls are saying, they're like, oh, I'm on a diet, I'm going to lose some weight, and they're eating pasta and potatoes. So for those of you who are not familiar with this, carbs, which is in pasta and potatoes and bread and stuff like that, are the quickest way to gain weight. So they're cutting all the little tiny, thin little rind of fat off their steak and have a great big, potato for their lunch. And it's like, yeah, you kind of missed the point on this one, right? So making poor decisions purely because they don't understand about the impact of different kinds of food groups on the weight. You see, that's an important portion of the whole weight loss thing, right? What else is going on?
Lack of understanding, hunger.
So lack of understanding, things like hunger. So there's some psychology stuff there, right? Or
Maybe like a mind-body connection as well.
exactly. So there's a self-connection going on there, right? Self-image is another great one, right? Thank you.
Trauma, yes.
Emotional trauma is a huge proportion, not all the time, but it's a relatively reliable one too. It's one that's so reliable, you will want to explore it one way or another, right?
Secondary gain.
So secondary gain, okay, you're familiar with the idea of secondary gain, right? Secondary gain, whatever that might be in that person's life. In the back? Inertia, right?
They've
Right.
done the same thing before. They're going to just keep doing it again.
Right. There's also a lot of stuff around a lot of people dissociate from their physical body. The lift coming from the neck up, right? And that dissociation.
You like that one?
That dissociation will impact on it. It's like food becomes a comfort food. Go on.
He was asking what was that secondary gain.
Oh, secondary
sorry.
gain. Sorry, that is it's a part of the whole therapy thing. Sometimes problems have a payoff that is actually positive. Example: if I have a driving phobia, I'm like a soccer mum, I no longer have to drive all the kids to school and to the soccer field and all that sort of stuff. As soon as I resolve the phobia, now there's more demands on my time. I get more stressed, so I may get the phobia back because then I have some me time again, right? So you need to make sure that you can take care of that. You see, there's a lot of stuff going on here. Now, we could do the classic approach of, we'll turn up your inner thermostat, increase your metabolism, you burn off fat, and maybe have a little bit of attraction to good food. That's about as much as you can get done in a session, right? How much stuff are we leaving out as a result of this? How much are we missing? Right? Now,
Sounds right.
could it work? Sure. Even in the short term it may work, and maybe even the long term it might work. But this person's still running around with a lack of confidence. They're still dissociated from their physical self. They may still have a poor self-image. Anyone here ever deal with anorexics? Right? They'll look in the mirror and they think they're fat when there's barely anything left to them. Right? And the reason for that is they've got huge distortion of their self-image. So, you may fix the eating habits, but the actual real problem in their life isn't food. The real problem in their life, actually in anorexia, is actually control, but that's another issue. The real problem in someone's life when it's weight loss stuff is to do with other things like their self-image. So if you ask someone, why do you want to lose weight? It's usually because they want to feel more attractive, right? There may be some health reasons involved around it, right? It might be a self-esteem thing, so I can feel proud of myself in company and so on. Most of the things they're asking for have nothing to do with their shape. Oh, and by the way, weight loss is a misnomer.
Yeah.
Fat weighs less than muscle. You can actually increase your weight and still slim down, right? So people are looking at I want to lose some weight. What they're really asking for is, I want to have a certain body shape, right? And that's an important distinction to make in the back of your mind, and one that would usually help my clients make as part of that session. So do you see how much they're missing if all you're doing is dealing with the presenting issue? Now you can do that, of course.
So let me just show you guys a really quick trick that you guys could use to turn this into a curriculum. Would that be useful?
Should I turn
So,
the page?
yeah, see, leave right here. Oh, actually, could I have a red
Red
pen?
pen right there.
And is it going to be in your notes? Actually, no, I just came up with this right now. So
So you
I'll
get the
add it to your
meta
notes,
advanced stuff.
right? So I realized as you were speaking, I intuitively do it this way, but I'll show you guys how I do it. Let's order these from top to bottom. What is the most important thing that your client might care about right now, and what's the, on to the least important one that they think they might care about? Or you could order it in a way where it's like, maybe it's the easiest thing for you to take care of today, but then there's more advanced stuff that they could do, right? And I'm just going to write some numbers up here. Honestly, it doesn't matter what numbers I write up here for now. This
It'll
will
be
be
personal.
dependent
Exactly.
on your client. So, right, let's talk about, maybe they need to do, 1 here, the dissociation, 2 here, 3rd here, 4th here, 5th here, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th. And if my unconscious gave me the right answer, then that might actually be a good order.
You now have a 9-session program,
Yep.
right? In each session, you focus on one specific thing that they're looking for, one specific problem. And what will happen is, as you work with more and more weight loss patients, you'll notice a pattern emerging, and you will have a preference for maybe combining some of these things in a session, right? So now you start selling the 7-session weight loss program, because in your first session, you may deal with them, get them in touch with their body again, and you might throw in a little bit about their, actually I'll do that in 1 session. The second session, you might talk about their nutrition and get them to get attracted to the right kind of foods. The third session may be, well, you've got a secondary gain, what else are they getting as a payoff? But then you may also talk about the relationships, because they're kind of gained in, they're kind of together, right? Then in that 1 session, you might deal with their self-esteem or their emotional issues and their self-esteem, because they'll be kind of wrapped together in some sort of way. So you can combine them or you can expand them depending on what the person needs and how much time you have. This is a simple process.
Easy.
Right? And you see how you've now turned, not by stretching a session out, saying like, oh, you know what, today you're only allowed to lose ½ a pound, and you have to pay me another $100, you're going to lose another ½ a pound. And if you're really fat, well then, you're going to have a lot of money, because otherwise, you're not going to get there, right? That's not what we're talking about here. That is really not what we're talking about at all. What we're talking about is actually looking at how do we, this is actually an idea from another hypnotist as well, which is, how do we fix your entire life?
Yeah.
You come in, and all we're getting is the tip of the iceberg, right?
But you use that as a starting point.
Exactly, because that's where the fire is burning right now. So fix the fire that's burning. But what if you can offer them, on top of the fire that's burning, to make sure that the whole iceberg that's floating underneath it gets fixed too, so that all the other things that could go wrong don't? Because really, think about this. Are there some people here who would like to lose a few pounds? Anyone? Now, if you think about how you think you will be as a human being when you have done that, wouldn't it be fair to say there is more there than just less of you, right? There's a thing about you feel confident, you might have more energy, people would look and treat you differently. What you're really asking for, let me do an experiment, a little thought experiment here right now. If you could have all the things you think you would have if you were a little slimmer, right? So people treat you differently, they look at you differently, you feel like $1 million, you get all sexy and stuff, you have health things, you're exercising, you're enjoying that and so on. If you can have all that, but you stay exactly the same shape you are right now, or you could become slim and trim, and your day-to-day experience is identical to what it is right now. You feel the same, you think the same, people treat you the same. Which of the two would you rather have? The first one, right? So really, it is not the weight loss, it's not the slimming down that's of interest, it is what you think the payoff will be that's of interest. And that's why these programs are so important. That's why these are actually value-based programs, as opposed to just a grab for the money. It's not a cash grab. Do you understand the distinction here? And this is, I think, a very ethical way.
I was looking through that list of top 10 products. That's basically what you're talking about, right?
Yeah, that's actually right at the start here. That's before the all this stuff. Yeah. A little more, and we're almost there. Was it this? Was it this?
There we are.
So notice how, once again, each one of these could be subdivided and become a whole program or just a simple CD. So do you see how with your lecture demo, you can scale it up and scale it down? You can see that very easily, right? Now your sessions can be scaled up and scaled down according to desire, what does the client want, and budget, right? If they say, look, I would love to have this big 10-session wonder thing, but I can only afford enough for a 2-session thing, say, great, we'll take it to the 2-session program and we'll take it as far as we can in the time that we have. So it's an ethical promise to make, right? If they say, look, money's no object, I love what you talked about and all this other stuff, I want it, great, sign you up. I know people who will do something like 6-month programs. 6 months of just coming in constantly and people are just getting jacked and excited and life gets better and better and so on. So this can be I think it's a very useful, very practical tool and I think a very ethical way of increasing your budget. Or increasing your income. Does that help you guys? Does it make sense? Do you have any questions on this sort of thing? Can we have the microphone ready, please? Or you guys are ready?
So you sell that from the beginning. You say, okay, we do a 6-month program. We do this step, this step, this step.
You have a couple
or
of
you
options.
say in the middle of the relationship, you do it step by step. You show them the path.
Sure. So you have a couple of options here. In time, you will probably develop your own weight loss method, right? Which will be 5 sessions, 7 sessions, whatever it is. At which point, that's what you're selling. When you get your resource pack, the sample sales letter that I've created for you is based on my weight loss program, which I haven't had a chance to teach properly, but it's based on a 5-session program that fixes the key issues. And that 5-session program could be a 9-session program. You can say, look, so here's the basic version, here's the deluxe version, which do you want? That's a nice, simple choice you can give them. Initially, though, just do the interview. Just say, look, come in. We'll do a 1 or 2 session program, and then that's what you offer them. In the session, you then have a long interview with ahead of time, saying like, what's the you want? What are these things? What do you want to get out of this? How will you be different, etc. You have your shopping list, and you say, great. Now, thank you for answering all these questions. You now have a decision to make. You've signed up for the 2-session program, and absolutely, I'll honor that. That's a great thing, and you'll lose some weight. My guarantee is still good, and so on. However, from everything you've expressed, what's coming out right now, it's emerging, is you could really use the whole life makeover weight loss program package that I have. So you see how you want this, and this. So we can put this all together into a nice, simple 9-step process. Each step is 1 session, and we will laser target each item of your life that is out of balance and totally reshape it so that as you're reshaping your body, you get to reshape your life as well. Does that sound like something you'd be interested in? So you have that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's going, oh yeah, I like that.
I like that.
But you see, you have a double choice. In time, you can just go straight for the package if that's what you want to. It's a strategic choice you make. I don't know if you have a different approach to doing that. But
Actually, that's the exact approach that I use. And who here is still a little bit afraid of niching down? You're afraid you might, lose some clients? It's okay if you are.
There's a few things. Yeah, it's natural, by the way.
It's natural.
That fear won't quite go away until you start doing it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you see how, with a nice curriculum or a ladder system, that you might be marketing to a particular niche, but if you have other skills, this sort of life makeover kind of system can really allow you to expand and be creative and have fun based on the people that you've already got on your list. They already love you now. They will want more, and you can provide them any number of types of services, or even partner with other people and do other services, and so that's more of an advanced strategy. However, if you're still afraid of what feels like putting yourself in a small box, don't be, because you'll advertise for that small box, but you can do so much more with these people. You can change their entire lives, and I think that's worth,
For sure.
Niching down so that you can find the right people who will want your services, that you can, all the other services you can provide for them.
Now, To give you a little example of this, we have a very large list, as you can imagine, right? I would rather have 100 people like Joe or Arthur on my list than the thousands of people we have on our current list. Why? Because I can do so much more with them. They're willing to go for the entire range, for everything. Intellectually, it's much more satisfying because I get to explore much deeper grounds, right? Financially, it's much more rewarding because they want to buy everything that we have, right?
Sometimes twice.
Sometimes twice. That's why we really love you, right? But you see what we're going about. Don't think in terms of your list is your most important asset, but then the quality of your list is yet another part of that asset, right? You could have, think of it in terms of medicine. You can have like half-hearted, watered-down medicine where you pump yourself full of it and maybe it won't work, maybe it will work. Or you can go for the high-quality medicine that fixes it in 2 shots. So this is what we're looking for. Your list, if it's a high-quality list, which is it's a responsive list, and it's niched because that's really how you create that responsiveness, you actually have a huge amount of offering you can make to that list, and that's where your income comes from. Does it make sense, everyone? Any questions on this model?
Yes.
Over here, just go ahead.
On the example where you said, for example, they're worried about the finance for doing the 9 steps or whatever, or as you put it, the deluxe version or lose weight light, to put it another way, would that be a good opportunity to say, right, alternatively, what I also do is the group sessions,
Sure.
one
Yep.
a week at, but
Sure.
it needs to be so many people per, and
Sure.
the next one starts in so many weeks.
See, now you're thinking. Absolutely. You can also say, look, we can fix the biggest issues right now in the next 2 sessions, and then here's my CD weight loss program, which will help you to get as much of the other stuff in as well. Of course, it's not as good as a one-to-one session, but it'll take you as far as you can go on your own too. So you have like a private therapist there too, right? So there's lots of different ways you can do this, but now you're starting to think strategically, which is the nice part.
And if you went with that option and they say they might not be able to afford it now and you gave them sort of the CD option, they might even come back later, even though they've already gotten the value out of the CD program that you have, and still come back to you for the rest of that 9-session program
Yep.
or 10-session program, whatever you have. And, I don't think of it as they're double paying you, but they're paying you again for more and more value. People they just want more and more value from you.
To give you an example of this, when we teach the conversation hypnotherapy training, which now our trainers are teaching rather than me directly, we release the DVDs, and instead of actually making it harder to get people in because they can get the DVDs rather than actually come to the live course, it made it easier. More people wanted to come. It started off with just a few people, and by the end of it, we had about 1/3 to 1/2 of the room had watched the DVDs first and thought, this is great, now I want the real thing, I want the live version of it. So they loved the digital, or the home study version, and then they wanted to have the next step on top of that as well. So it doesn't decrease your option, it actually increases them.
Yeah, just to follow up, the thinking as well was by saying we have to have so many in a group, you're also saying you have the support of others in the group, you're having a buddy system, and it encourages them to bring their compatriots in.
Sure. And you know what? If you want that, spell it out for them.
It's like I was going to.
Connect the
very
dots.
specifically.
Make
Exactly.
it very explicit to them.
Yeah. Do you see how many more options you get with this? Who here is now going to transform their programs, the hypnotherapy practice, from simple sessions to complete programs? Anyone? I would agree with you. I think that's really where both your ability to serve and your ability to grow as a business. I mean, if you do nothing but this, guys, if you forget the products and the evening classes and all the rest of it, your hypnotherapy business, just based on this alone, will skyrocket. It should at least double in terms of what you can do with it. At the very least. I don't know if you're experiencing that.
More like 5 times, but
yeah. Put it this way. If you can sell a $100 session or a $500 session, right? And then, should we talk a little bit about pricing?
yeah.
Do you have a quick question before we do that?
I was going to ask about how you ferret out those things that they need.
Oh, how do we ferret out the things that they need? It's just in terms of the interview you have with them ahead of time. And the big question is, just ask them, let me just ask it to you directly. Can someone pass him the mic so that he can play a subject?
The quick answer is market research.
Market research is the one if you want to prepare the program. This is how you do it ad hoc, right?
Okay.
Can you, is there a particular problem you'd like to fix in your life that you're happy to talk about in public?
Certainly.
All right, just tell me about that.
Okay, so I'd like to lose some weight. I'm
Great.
still about
Weight
30
loss,
pounds
fantastic,
over. You
excellent.
bet.
All right. So, which is great because it's the exact example, right?
Right.
So we could do the whole, 1 or 2 session weight loss thing, which is the classic standard, right?
Sure.
So let me ask you before we begin the session, why do you want to lose some weight?
Well, let's see. I've had health issues. I've had
Health
2 heart
issues?
attacks, and so I want to make sure.
Yeah, what learning?
I said 2 heart attacks. So I
Oh,
wanna
2
make
heart
sure.
attacks, fantastic. Carry on.
Exactly. And so then, I want to.
No.
Thanks.
So let me put it this way: those heart attacks were partly weight related.
Right, exactly.
Would you say there were some stress issues along that too?
Exactly,
Okay, so some stress stuff that kind of related to this, but it's not necessarily directly related to the weight loss program.
Right,
okay?
exactly.
Okay, carry on.
So yeah, there's the stress and obviously wanting to stay.
Let me just take some notes whilst we're doing this. Is that okay if I come back and forward?
Yeah, you bet.
So we have weight. That's what he came in for, right? We have stress, right? So we have another session there.
Sure.
Okay. Here's another one. I don't know if you heard it, right? Mind-body healing. What if we designed the program in a way that I could teach your mind and your body to connect so that it stays healthier?
Sure.
Would that be something worthwhile?
It would be definitely worthwhile.
So what else has motivated you to want to lose some weight?
Want to stick around so I can see my kids grow and have their own families and things of that nature.
Right, so be sort of like the whole longevity thing. So if your body was healthier, you could live longer and have that.
And have that as well. You bet.
Okay. What else?
I'm trying to think.
So
what about,
if you
what
were,
about a relationship
actually,
with those people?
yeah.
Yeah, the other thing is reduce the number of medications I'm taking.
So
there you
medications, you can reduce it. So what kind of medication?
Heart, blood pressure, meds, and all that kind of good stuff.
So the whole health thing is actually a bigger thing.
It
so
is.
we talked about the whole health thing on a separate, as actually its own little track.
Okay.
There would probably be several things you want to fix in terms of your whole mind-body connection, right?
Sure, you bet.
So really, and I'm not going to go into it right now, but this thing here sounds like we could probably have 3 or 4 sessions on that. Then stress is another session there. Weight loss is probably 2 sessions we can have there.
Okay.
So in terms of how you would be as a human being when you have everything you would think, losing a few pounds will do for you. So let's say you lose those few pounds and everything else that you think it'll fix along with it, what's happening, how would your life be different? How would you be as a person?
I'd have more energy.
More energy,
Yeah.
okay, so we have another one right here. What would you do with that energy?
Let's see. Probably travel the world because I'd have more energy to be able to go and see.
So
and
you
do-
travel the world and so on, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And what would traveling the world do for you? What was that about?
Have experiences. Basically, have more adventures, more experiences in my
So when you're having adventures and experiences, what does that do for you?
it gives me happiness.
Increase your happiness. So if you could be just as happy right now, before you had the time, the money, and the energy to do it, that'd be kind of worth starting with that now, so you can take that happiness into your actual travels and explorations and so on, right?
Oh, you bet.
Can you see how quickly we're building a program here, folks? And all I'm doing is I'm asking some questions about what he wants. Because he doesn't just want to lose some weight. What he wants is a better life. This is really what people would call life coaching, but I don't want to use that phrase because most life coaches, in my opinion,
That's fake.
the word I want to use rhymes with luck, but it's not as happy, right? It's just because they have I think the process they have are relatively poor and the training tends to be really poor. But really, what people want is to fix their life. They want to be in balance with life. They want to have the energy to play with their grandkids and do fun things, be happier, learn stuff. So probably, I would imagine, learning and memory might be part of this whole process as well at some level.
Sure.
And there we go. So now, if we could do 2 things here, Glenn, right? On the one side, we could just fix the weight thing as quickly as possible. Maybe 2 sessions will do that, get you eating healthier, getting into your body and so on. If you want to go for a slightly more advanced version, maybe in 5 sessions, we can work on some of the physical things too, get you craving exercise so you really enjoy it. And it's the kind of thing that's actually going to rebuild your body rather than destroy it, because you don't want to be an Olympic athlete that damages stuff, right?
Sure.
And we can work a little bit on the mind-body connection to increase your healing potential. That's like the simplified, extended program.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or we can go for the deluxe version, where we make sure we spend a whole time on figuring out what really makes you happy, so that you can have that same happiness you would have had from traveling and so on, long before you get there. We can increase the whole health thing, so that all the choices you're currently making in your life that are decreasing your health can increase your health instead. So we'll reverse those choices. Plus, by making that mind-body connection more explicit, there's a lot of research out there about how your body can be assisted to heal. Your immune system can be boosted, the self-reparation can be boosted, and all kinds of stuff like that too, right?
Sure.
What else do we have here? Oh, yeah, and of course, I know we live in a normal world which has stresses and all that kind of stuff, so we will include things in there, strategies not just to decrease your stress, but also so your mind automatically finds ways to dissolve the situations that normally arise that cause you stress. Because if you change, those situations can no longer arise. And if your perception changes, of course, the stress levels on you decrease as well. Now that whole thing, just thinking off the top of my head and so on, would probably be more like a 9 to 12 session program. Does that sound like something you'd want?
Yeah, actually it is.
It does, doesn't it? So we've gone from a $200 hypnotherapy program to more like a $1,200 hypnotherapy program. And that's not even, we haven't even talked about pricing yet. This is just on a prorated basis,
Sure.
right? We haven't even talked about how to structure pricing and so on, which we're about to have a look at before lunch. Does that help answer your question?
Yes, perfect.
You've designed the perfect program for me. This is really the simplest way of doing it.
Yeah.
Sure.
In time.
in a simple conversation, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful.
And
way.
don't you feel much more listened to now that I've taken the time to do this?
Oh, you bet.
Right? I mean, you could even, if you wanted to, and this is where I would think it would be useful to have like a free consultation where you talk to someone, because now,
You
know,
get that.
exactly, because now you know that you're not just getting a $200 thing for half an hour of your time. Now it's more like the executive coaching I used to do, where I would happily spend, an hour talking to my coaching clients as a pre-sale, because if I got them, and I got most of them precisely because of this kind of conversations, I'm selling a 6-month program at the time, well, actually it increased afterwards, but when I was starting it was £1,200, which would be $2,400 at the time with exchange rate.
Sure.
So 6 months at $2,400 per session is enough money that I can willingly sacrifice an hour, and it actually works in the long run, right?
Sure, you bet.
So I'll happily sit down for 20 minutes with you or get on the phone for 20 minutes with you, design the program and ask you, does that sound like the program you really want? Then work you through the structures of it, the finances of it, work out a way that you can actually afford to pay it so it doesn't actually, you don't have to sell the children that you want to be, living long enough to see.
Right.
Right? But you see how simply we've just, I have just improved my business, and not just by shafting someone and saying, oh, you have to have all this extra stuff, but by generally providing as much value as I can.
Sure.
Right? Because if you compare it, I can give you a standard weight loss program, 2 sessions, you'll start losing weight.
Right.
Or you can have all this. Which would you rather have?
I'd rather have all that. And it was funny because I actually forgot
You gonna lift it up a bit?
Oh, I'm sorry. I actually forgot about the 2-session deal pretty much.
Thank you.
Pretty
Yeah.
quickly there.
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah, give me a round of applause for that, because that is exactly what happens.
yeah, that is amazing.
All right, who here is starting to get a little excited right now, right? Can you see the potential of this? Because this is no longer selling in the traditional sense of like, I've got to find a manipulation way of like locking you into something. This is finding what you want. I can make your dreams come true, or at least those parts of your dream that I can make come true. I will work my damnedest to do it.
Okay.
But of course, I need to be supported on that lines. I can't do this for free. You realize that, right?
Yeah, you bet.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question now?
It definitely answers.
Can we have
the
an
question.
answer, the mic back behind you, and then we'll do some pricing stuff.
Thank you. That was very good. This is about serving your
Yes.
client.
Yep.
Yes.
This is about finding out what they really, really
Yes.
want and
Yep.
what would help them. And I really liked what you said earlier about all those things. I don't exactly remember what it was, but that's about more life affirming,
Yes.
creating more juice in your life. And I think
Yes.
that's what we're all after.
Ultimately, isn't that exactly what we want in life? We want to feel like we're the shit. Excuse me, my friend. We want to get up in the morning and go, thank you, God, for this one more day. If I die tonight, that's okay, because today I'll make it worthwhile, worth my while, right?
Right.
If everyone could wake up that way and run their day that way, wouldn't that be something?
Yeah.
Right? Now, of course, life has its ups and downs and so on, so it's not necessarily what we promise people, because we can't, but we can definitely take the happiness and the quality of life quotient and kick it through the roof compared to what most people do, right?
Yeah.
So we're generally providing value. That's the key thing I want to get across. It's not a scam. It's not a quick get rich quick scheme and grab the money and run. It's nothing to do with that. Do not promise anything here that you do not think you can deliver, right? I think I can deliver all of these things. I cannot promise him I'll fix his health issues. I can't do that. That's a, first of all, medical thing. And especially with the mind-body healing stuff, I will probably, as part of the conversation, ask him to sign a medical release form so I can contact his doctor and say, look, your patient has come in for weight loss. He also would like to have some stuff around, mind-body healing and so on. Here's some of the research that, suggests that hypnosis can help mind-body healing. I'm not going to suggest he removes any medication. I'm not going to do any of that stuff. I just want to have your permission to help him improve his health so that when he comes and sees you, you can yourself monitor his progress and decide what to do with him on that level. Is it okay for you, from you, or is there anything I should know before doing that kind of work? And that's kind of part of the ethical contract we're making. Does that make sense? Plus, how much safer do you feel if I ask you to sign that medical release and I give you the reason for it, now that you think like, oh my God, this person's kind of serious. He actually wants to do this for real. Doesn't that give you more confidence? Did you pass the mic forward?
Yeah, definitely.
Right?
Definitely.
And that's what we're doing, folks. We're helping people get to that point.
Okay.
Is that useful, guys? Let's pass the mic over here. Yeah, go on. Pass the mic over here quickly. We'll take 2 questions quickly, and then we'll want to talk about pricing before we go to break for lunch.
Given that some of us won't feel we've got necessarily the skill set to deliver all the bits you just offered, and given that we've done the market research and know what every other hypnotherapist in the area does offer, isn't that a perfect opportunity to say, these bits I can do one-on-one, these bits I'm going to refer you to another specialist, and you're building up an excellent relationship with all the other therapists in your area?
Absolutely. Meanwhile, you can just increase your skills. There are lots of resources. If you have any doubts of where to go, hello, I'm here.
Well, in that case, you may even ask the person you refer it to record the session and send it to you for your notes, and you get a chance to learn exactly
That's lots of
how
stuff
they
you
work.
can do with that. I mean, the way you organize yourself is really something you're going to think about, but I like the way you're thinking about this stuff now, right?
Thank you.
Pass the mic back behind you.
One quick question. Are you guys starting to see the genius of this map now? Of how the map is starting to get more detailed in your own minds? How you're making little roads there that it may not be the exact relationship road that we drew out for you, but you're starting to connect. Oh, I can use those princes over here. I can take the referral partners and go this way. I can take the villagers and move them over here, and we can connect them in these little ways. This is why we designed the map that way. We want you to, and why we have you try it over and over again, because we want you to make those little connections. We want you to find those minute details that, we're finding here.
I'd like for you, especially now with the lunch break, maybe take some more paper as you go out. We'll be full of a few more things before we finish, but I really would like you to be able to draw this map from memory. If you're going to draw this map from memory, then you haven't got the system down yet. Because every item in that map is a portion of your system. And there's a reason, I think most of you can draw half the map quite easily, but you're kind of sketching out on some of the other parts. Those are the bits you need to draw more, because you need to make those connections inside your mind. Even if you don't start there now, it tells your unconscious mind how to build your business. In other words, when you're making business decisions, you will be more likely to make decisions that will let you grow into these other areas because you're already anticipating it. If you only start with half the map, and that's all you kind of really can draw, that means your decision quality will probably deteriorate somewhat because it hasn't got those other things it's already anticipating. You don't have to think about it consciously. If you already anticipate it at an unconscious level, you will automatically tweak your decisions one way or another. And those little tweaks over time make a huge difference. Does that make sense to you guys?
Yep.
So there's a method to our madness. Go ahead.
Igor, I may have to apologize in advance for this comment, but
That's okay.
When I listen to you, I hear you drawing out the values, the client's values.
Yep.
And you have a great program that does that, where you teach how to draw out values, your mastery program.
Right.
You go through that whole thing. And that's just amazing because it's a really great, great session that teaches how to draw out the value.
Thank you.
So I'm apologizing for plugging it, but
Yeah, you know what? If anyone wants to insult me this way again, I can take it. Thank you. I really appreciate you saying that.
It's a great program. It really is.
Okay, guys, let's just get into the final piece. Let's not take too long about it. Just give them like some general principles on this. Because I would like for you guys to have some strategies around pricing. Because now that you can see you can go from a $100 session to a $1,200 session by creating a real value, That $1,200 session is actually worth more than $1,200.
Yeah.
Would you pay $2,500 for all those things on the list, right? If we throw in a little bit about, do you do any kind of sales, something like that, or running your own business? If we throw in some more things around, business creation and so on as well, suddenly the value is there. So the irony is, the more sophisticated your program becomes, you don't start discounting it, you can actually increase the prices because the value is there. You may have heard Joe charges $500 for a 1-hour smoking session. He's now freeing himself from the tyranny of time. He's not working by the hour. I'm not selling you an hour of my time, which is worth $100 maybe, or $200, whatever it is. What he's offering you is the benefit of his expertise. The reason he can do a stop smoking session in 1 hour is because he's an expert in it. So if you want to do it in an hour, $500, well, it's better spent than spending it on the guy who's going to torture you for 5 weeks and then has lower results anyways. Do you see how that works?
Yep. Here's the contrast that I make. You could try to quit smoking on your own, and what has that taken? 20 years, and it still hasn't worked? Or you can go to the guy down the street. He's going to take 5 weeks, and it's going to cost this much. Or you could just quit in an hour. Which would you rather have?
And just think about how much time you're saving in those 5 weeks that you're no longer smoking, right?
And then that connects it to the value that way. Think of how much time you could have saved yourself already and how much time you can save yourself now in the future. Isn't that worth more than $500?
Do you remember the idea around the price comparison that we talked about on the phone script, on the phone process, right? We talked about the telephone process when someone calls in. At the end, you have to do a price comparison before you can present it, right?
Yeah.
You need to start training your mind to automatically look for these things. For example, what might you do if Glenn was your, is it okay for you, Glenn, run Glenford? It's Glenn, right? So if we had Glenn as a client, what kind of price comparisons it should be really obvious here. Hospital bills, right? Reduced insurance rates, right? And ultimately, what price do you put in your life, right? So, whilst I can't make any medical guarantees, what I can do is in terms of everything that medical science can't do, I can help you do to, stabilize your health, improve it, and so on, so that you minimize the risk of having another heart attack again. Can you put a price on that sort of thing? It's invaluable, right? So suddenly, price is no longer an object. The only reason price will be an objection is if you can't afford it straight away, in which case we can do some kind of a payment plan or something along those lines to make it affordable. But you see how now we've taken someone out of the consideration of price because what they want is literally priceless. Right? Does that make sense to you guys? Yep. So do you want to go through some pricing strategies? Just the simple, basic ones. For their programs.
Oh, okay. So we start out with the very basics of a pricing model, right? That one-to-one, you get a session, you get a program. Or
so you're basically selling your time.
Value, right? You're selling your time. And I want to get away from that model of selling your time for money. And when we start looking at being able to multiply our time with products, with group programs. Again, there's still a little bit of time involved in there, but you're starting to multiply the value that you can provide to lots more people at varying levels, of course, and that will start to divorce you from having to spend time in order to get money. So do you want to walk through a simple example?
All right, so here's a classic hypnotherapy model, right? 1 hour session, $100. That's pretty much it, right? The only way this hypnotherapist can increase their income is either charge more. And there's nothing wrong with charging more. As you get more experience and you become better and you can guarantee better results, that's a very adequate thing to do, right? So one of the ways we can multiply your income, and that's what the product and stuff like that for is to not have to be working one-on-one. So you have the products, we have the group sessions, the seminars. These things let you multiply yourself either because you have more people physically present or because you have more mini-yous running around in the form of CDs and videos doing the work for you. You can do the same thing, though, even though you're still selling your hour. What you have to do, though, is, I'll give you an example with the martial arts class. The traditional martial arts class costs anywhere between $5 and $20 a session, depending on how market savvy they are, right? There may be more, maybe less. The organization I was telling you about in Holland do not charge by the hour. They have sessions every day, actually usually 2 sessions, and you can go to as many or as few as you want. You can take as long as you want. If it takes you a year, it takes you a year. If it takes you 2 years, that's fine, but you're paying one price. What you're now doing is you switch from the time-based model to a results-based model. Yeah. Here is what you're going to get, right? And by the way, as soon as you make that switch, you will no longer need to make as hard a price comparison anymore, because you're no longer selling yourself by the hour. You're offering programs.
Yep.
Right?
So my 1 hour stop smoking session becomes the 1 hour part is more of a selling point rather than, I'm going to charge you, this because that's how much my time costs. I'm charging you $500 because that's the value of the program. That's the value of the result that you'll get.
That's what it's worth, right? It's actually worth more than $500, so you're actually discounting everything that they're getting. You're charging by the change. Exactly, right?
I'm going to steal that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, you can steal it too. It's all right.
Go ahead, guys. Steal it all you want. Folks at home, by all means, plagiarize. But you see the fundamental shift in the attitude, right? Now, sure, you need to still have an eye on how much time you're spending doing it to get a sense of what your pricing is. Because if suddenly your time is diminished down to $10, the equivalent of $10 an hour, you're not going to be going very far as your business, right? So you do have to keep an eye on the time to understand whether or not you're damaging yourself as a business person. But other than that, you now have programs and you price them according to what they are worth, right? If I'm going to totally transform your life, I'm not going to charge $1,200 for that. I could, but I think $2,500 is much more appropriate. Maybe even $5,000. Once again, you've got to go back to your client profile. What's the income levels, right? Let's put it this way. If I'm in a higher income bracket, if someone would charge me, I don't know, $10,000 to fix all the things that in my life I currently want to fix, and I don't even have to think about it anymore, I won't even think about it. As long as I trust that person and their skill, not a thought. 10 grand, not a problem, right? There are people from 10 grand is chicken feed. They go, is that all? I was expecting 50 grand for that.
Yep.
Right? So as soon as you go to this value-based model, you set your own price tag. When people say how much, then your phone conversation, you see how your phone conversation already, you extend the phone process to include what we just did here. If you extend that, you can actually construct a program as you're talking to them. You just take a few notes as you're talking to them and say, look, great. Well, we have 2 choices. We've got the basic program. I can fix the most important parts of what you're asking for in about 3 sessions, and that'll be $600, right? And here's the price comparison as to why and how it works and so on. However, you mentioned this, and this. So what I'm thinking right now is the deluxe version would require 12 sessions. On the first session, we would do this, then we focus on this, and then 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 this. Your life will change like this, and this. You'll be feeling like this. Is this sounding familiar, guys? Isn't that what he was doing with your bullet points and stuff before, right? You're just running them through this on the phone conversation, and yes, it'll take a little bit of practice to get used to it, but you can call each other up and practice this, right? And at the end of it, you can turn around and say, look, so you can have the basic version, which is 3 sessions for $600, or you can have the full 12-session deluxe program, which is going to cost you $3.5 grand. However, this is going to last over 3 months, so we're going to spread them out so you're integrating the change in your everyday life. Whatever comes up in your life will come back into the session, and we'll fix that right along with it, right? And if the session needs to last longer, if it's more than 12 sessions, let's say it takes 15 sessions, I'll keep working with you until you are satisfied. Do not make that promise unless you think you can back it up. And even then, you need to have a contract which to say, the only requirement I have is that when I ask you to do something, you do it. If you violate the contract, and I won't ask you to do anything crazy like, lick the Pope or something,
Where is your mind today?
Twisted mind.
Yeah, okay.
I will only ask for you to do simple things that are reasonable to do. But if you don't do them, you break the contract, and at that point, you know, the guarantee becomes void. I'll still work with you within, you know, the 12 sessions I promised you, but you must keep your end of the bargain up, because you need to have your clients responsible too, right?
Yep.
Now suddenly, is $3.5 grand really a consideration? Unless they're on, you know, unless they're in like a low-income family where $3.5 grand means selling a baby, is no longer an issue. And you'll know that ahead of time because you're already targeting your market. You already know what their average income is. Do you see how price becomes totally irrelevant at this point, right?
Yep.
Does it help you guys? Is there anything you want to add to that?
So there is one idea I want to add. And so in terms of this model where you're providing them a solution, right? You guys have heard the idea sort of that the whole is more than the sum of its parts.
Yes.
Right? So that's what we're talking about here. Yeah, you could do individual sessions for weight loss, for stress, for stop smoking, whatever it happens to be. But because you're offering this as a program, as a one-stop shop, you can come and get all of this stuff based on that one thing that sort of gets you into here. Now, suddenly this is worth a whole lot more than these things individually, and you'll have almost no effort to sell them into something like this, to convince them that, you know what, this is actually what you really want. And it's really, you know, that's actually a bad word for it. It's not really convincing. It's just showing them.
It's letting them see the value of what they're getting, right?
The true value of what they're getting. And you can charge more than the sum of those parts because it's you. They'll have a relationship with you. They don't have to spend the time to go find 12 different therapists to figure out each of these individual problems. They can just come to you. Question right here.
And before we go to that question very quickly, just to add to this, and this is also true in fact, if you have a competent set of hypnosis skills, especially those of you who train with me have this skill, each one of these sessions, actually you can pre-frame and preload the next session, so you actually have an escalating chain of change, right? And those of you who train with me, you know how to do that, right? You just frame the unconscious mind the right way, and each session becomes more powerful than the last because of this. So you really are literally doing more than just 12 sessions. You're doing stuff in between the sessions without even being there. So this is actually a reflection of what your work is actually doing. Does that make sense to everyone? We can take just two or three quick questions, then we have to have lunch because otherwise people will faint, right? So one there, one here. Please keep them short to avoid any deaths.
It's not really a question, just a tip that you actually, the both of you gave to me was when you're actually doing this solicitation on the phone and you actually create this inside of their head, this becomes a resource you use in the sessions.
Yep. Yes. Yep. Exactly.
This is the future outcome.
This is the future memory for it, right? Over here quickly, then we'll come forward, and then we'll take a break.
Since I've started hypnosis, I keep getting calls to do seminars.
Yes.
And that's what people want to hear. They want seminars.
Do them.
Right. Do them.
Okay.
And that's
But
back again to that curriculum model.
But I have a difficulty trying to pricing that.
We'll come to seminars after the break.
Yeah,
okay?
that's back again to that curriculum model. They're like, I really love this, but do you have a seminar that I can join, something like that? And if they're already asking you for that, I can guarantee you 20 other people behind them wished you had it, but never even told you.
So after the break, we'll talk about our seminar models and how to translate this to the seminar itself. Over here, over here.
Igor.
Yes.
Joe.
Yes, sir.
I love you guys.
Oh, thank you. We love you too, all of you.
So bring it forward.
So
You have 2 minutes.
All right. I'll be quick. So I already use this model to a certain extent.
Great.
Except I'm just not doing that on the phone. I'm doing that with a free consultation.
Sure.
That's
and
fine.
You two said an essential point. It's the trust and belief that you can help them and you're competent in your skills. The people that are calling me up, I'm doing that through direct marketing advertisement.
Cool.
Sell them onto a lecture demo first so they can see you in action and go, oh my God, this guy's a genius.
Right.
Then they're totally sold.
Okay.
That's why you do the lecture demo.
Yeah, that's like the bridge.
Remember, direct response marketing has a weaker relationship than a lecture demo or a referral. Hence, if you're going to do direct response marketing, I would recommend if you're focusing on hypnotherapy as your first step, you sell the direct response into the first campaign is for the lecture demo, and then when the lecture demo, the second campaign is into the hypnotherapy.
Okay.
Because you build the relationship twice.
Right.
So I'll leave you with this. As a rule, again, remember, guys, the closer that your potential clients or clients can get to you, the better. They want to get as close to you as they can, right? They really like that. And the more they trust you, the more value you can provide for them, the more they will want that connection with you. So you're starting, way over here, but if you get them to a lecture demo, they're another step closer. And a seminar, they're another step closer. And a session, they're another step closer. And you get to, really give them some massive value. They will want more and more and more of you.
So let's pause that until after the break, because we need to start having a break, otherwise people will, I'll promise that we'll come to it though. So right now, in terms of where we are right now, who's excited? Anyone? Yeah. Who can see their business totally transforming just based on what you learned today, right? Well, if you want to take this and put it on steroids, you better come back soon after lunch, because we're about to have something you do not want to miss. So, an hour and a quarter, let's be back here in an hour's time, and we'll start promptly. We'll give you more content.
Woohoo!